let's take a moment. Let's look at normal people. Let's look at how normal people think, people who've conformed to the pattern of this world. And let's look at how the fruit of those living choices kind of play out. And then we'll contrast it with weird people and how we're called to live and how we do live when we follow Christ and how that plays out. Okay, normal people, you can kind of sum it up this way. They trade the ultimate for the immediate. This world's all about instant gratification. Right now. Right now. I want to be hooked. I want to be pleased. I want to be blessed. I want to have satisfaction right now. Genesis chapter 25, verses 29 through 32. Great example of this. Okay, now in this story we read about Jacob and Esau. Jacob and Esau are two twin brothers. They are the sons of Isaac and Rebekah. Isaac is the son of Abraham. So Jacob and Esau are the grandsons of Abraham. And there couldn't be any more different than each other. Jacob was kind of a mama's boy. He's described as having smooth skin. And he liked to hang around home and do domestic things. Esau was Tim Taylor. He was burly. He was a man's man. Give me a stick. I want to go out in the field and kill stuff. Bring it home and cook it. That was Esau, okay? Couldn't have been any more different. So, once when Jacob was cooking some stew, Esau came in from the open country, famished. And he said to Jacob, "Quick, give me some of that stew. I am famished." How many of you have ever said, "Man, I'm starving to death. We got to find a restaurant now"? You're not starving to death, right? You're just being a little dramatic. But that's where Esau is. I'm famished. I've been out there in the bush doing stuff. I'm hungry. It's hot. Jacob paused. Now, it doesn't say he paused, but this is just how Jacob's mind worked. If you read the story of Jacob, he was always thinking. He's always saying, well, how can I maximize this moment for me? That's kind of where Jacob was for a big part of his life. And he replies with a ridiculous statement. "Okay, Esau, sure, I'll give you a bowl of stew. Serve it right up to you. Just give me your birthright." Now, you got to feel that. Imagine that you were born into a family that was well-to-do, and Isaac and Rebekah were well-to-do. They were the descendants of Abraham, and Abraham was a wealthy man. God had blessed him, and Isaac was his only born, his only son, and he had inherited that, and he was a wealthy guy. And Esau was the firstborn, and in that culture, that meant he got a double portion. He got or at least a much larger portion of the inheritance. And he would be seen with prominence and position and responsibility. I mean, it was a big deal. So imagine you're born into this well-to-do family, and now you have the birthright, and that's going to be your position to step into. And you come home one day and say, "Hey, can I have a bowl of soup?" And your younger brother says, "Sure, just give me your birthright." You're like, how ridiculous is that, right? But look at what happens here. First, just give me your birthright. And so, but Esau said, "I'm about to die." Poor guy, just a little dramatic. And he says, "What good is my birthright to me?" And he did it. He said, "Here's my birthright. Give me the soup." That's just what he said. And I know it's just crazy, and we're sitting here going, "That's ridiculous. That's crazy. Who would ever do that?" Now listen to this. Normal people trade their birthright for stew all the time. Normal people wake up and say, "Oh, I got to have that thing. I got to have that shiny thing, that new thing, that cool toy, that car, that house, that thing, and I got to have it now." And then they wake up a few years later, and they're looking at their pile of bills, and they're going, "Dude, I can barely make the minimum payments. I'm slaving away. I traded my financial freedom for a bowl of instant gratification stew." People do it all the time. Normal people wake up and go through life, and they say all the time, "I got to have that guy. I got to have that girl. You don't understand. I got to have them. I got to have this relationship." And they don't really give any thought to God's ways of waiting on Him and purity and marriage. They just got to have it. And so the next thing you know, the flesh is in the driver's seat, and they're in the relationship, and they're crossing lines that aren't really good for them to cross. And they're engaged in behaviors that aren't really good for them to engage in. And I've had a lot of people sit in my office with their head in their hands going, "Oh, Pastor, what a mess." The court's involved. People are involved. Stuff's involved. Why did I do that? Normal people do it all the time. They traded God's best for a bowl of instant gratification stew. People all the time say, "Man, I got to have that job. If I could just get that career, if I could just get to that position, if I could just get seen by my boss and take that step up and get that raise, man, I got to have it." And so they get consumed with work and pressing in and trying to climb up the ladder wherever it is they work. And then they wake up a few years later and their spouse and their kids are gone because they traded their family for a bowl of career stew. I'm telling you, friends, normal people, this is normal. This is the ways of the world. This is what people do all the time. It's just the way people live. Normal people trade the ultimate. They trade God's best for immediate, instant gratification. And then they end up going, "Why did I do that?"